That's the recording.
All right. Welcome everyone joining us here in City Hall and those who are joining us virtually. I'm Janet Hanson, the chair this year. And I'm calling the December 2nd meeting of the Historic Site Preservation Board to order at 5:30 p.m. May we have the roll call, please?
Yes, member, I'm sorry, Chair Hanson,
Present.
Vice Chair Bachman,
Present.
member Hare,
Here.
member Maruzzi,
Here.
member Panessa,
Here.
and both member Mashka Hitchcock and McCready are excused absences today. So we do have a quorum.
So may we have the staff report on the posting of the agenda, please?
The agenda for this meeting was posted for public review at the City Hall Bulletin Board on the west side of Council Chambers and at the Planning Department counters in accordance with the city's policies.
Okay. Do any board members have revisions to the agenda, including any requests to remove items on consent? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
And may I have a second?
Second.
Oh,
You pick.
Here. Okay, we have a motion by board member Payanesa and a second by board member Hare. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Moving on to public comments. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Historic Site Preservation Board on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter of the board. Although the board values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it can generally not take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. There will be 3 minutes assigned to each speaker, and testimony for the public hearings, which is item 2A, will be taken at that time in the meeting. Has anyone requested to comment on a non-public hearing or an item that's not on the agenda?
Nobody in the audience has requested to do so, and I do not see any raised hands with our visitors online.
All right. Okay, seeing that, we'll close public.
Make a public comment.
Oh,
Okay.
did you fill out a speaker card?
I'm here for hearing, but I'm also here for public comment.
Do we need do you have a speaker card?
I have one for item 2A, and I'll just note that there's Jade's going twice.
Jade, are you here for 2A? Are you here for item 2A?
I am.
Because we
but
can
also
do that,
for-
do the public
Also for
hearing.
public comment as well.
Okay, let's do the public comment.
Okay, thank you. So, as you know, I'm Jade Nelson, resident of Palm Springs. Even though this isn't on your agenda and it's not really under your purview tonight, there's been some chatter in the community about this new fee structure that's been proposed for historic site nomination application. And a lot of people are a little confused by it, and I myself, as a historian, feel that it kind of maybe, regardless of why it was created, it feels like it's not in the best public interest for a city like Palm Springs. So I think it would be nice if staff at some point made some kind of a public comment, maybe at the end of this meeting, or maybe the city made a statement somewhere in a press release as to why this is being done, because a lot of members of the community feel like it will make nominations more difficult, and it seems like something we're not trying to do here in Palm Springs, especially with the huge amount of Class 3 properties that we have. It seems that it's saying that you can only nominate your property if you have money, and it feels a little elitist in a way. So that's my public comment. I'll be back.
Thank you. We will now close the public comment period and proceed to the next item on the agenda, which is our consent calendar. We have one item on the calendar, which is approval of the draft meeting minutes from November. Do any board members wish to provide comments?
I should say I was absent, so I can't vote on that.
And I think several of you were, so won't be voting on this. Does anyone have any comments that were here? I have just a question, actually. I always misplace my minutes. On page 2, literally in the middle of the page, the last sentence, it just says pursuant to CEQA. Was there supposed to be something else pursuant to CEQA, or is that it? Let me pull that up. Seemed like it should be up to.
I imagine it's, this action is not a.
I think it, the rest of that did get cut off, so we'll
Okay.
go ahead and add that in.
So that would be my only comment. So if there are no more comments, may I have a motion to approve the November minutes on the consent calendar?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, and do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion by Board Member Bachman and a second by Board Member Hare. Any further?
Vanessa.
I'm sorry, Vanessa.
I know we look alike.
I know, the second time I've done that, isn't it? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of approval of the minutes from the November meeting?
Aye.
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 And so that's 3
Abstain.
and 2 abstentions. So the motion passes 3-2. Now move on to public hearings. Today we have item 2A, a request by owners Joan and Gary Gann for historic designation of Fallows residence located at 765 Bahia Videra, assessor parcel number 505-093-005, case number HSPB 168. May we have the staff report, please?
Yes. And just really quickly before I begin the staff report, the way that the room captures the recording, we don't have the mics. I just want everyone, as we're deliberating, to be conscientious that if you talk over each other, the recording gets a little bit muddled. So if you want to raise your hand or find a way where you're talking in sequence as opposed to a discussion format, that would be very helpful. So we'll go ahead and start with the first item. The public hearing item before the HSPB this evening is the single-family home at 765 Via Videra. This is an owner-initiated request for historic site designation. Oh, is it in presentation mode? There we go. All right. The home is situated on a corner lot in the Las Vista Palmas neighborhood. Thank you. And the period of significance is the completion date of 1972. When we take a quick look and a closer look at the aerial map on the screen, the landscape areas around the home are concentrated on the edges of the property, while the front yard is hardscaped with a side loading garage that is the frontmost facing portion of the home. Here you can see the front entrance to the home is emphasized with a simple yet very commanding front door, and that is achieved through the use of color, but really it's the scale of the door and how it fits into the recessed entry wall. This is also a great view showing the impact of hierarchy and height that's created on that facade. The articulation of mass and scale is subtle and bold at the same time. And up until very recently, this home had a very different street appeal. The photograph to the left shows the home in 2020, where a wall was added to enclose the front entry. And in effect, it disrupted the ability to view the play of hierarchy of form and scale. Now all of that is very clearly viewable from the street following its recent restoration. So completed in the early 1970s, this home appears to demonstrate the shifting design aesthetic of that time. When reviewing an application for site designation, the ordinance allows the following criteria for the site must be met. For a Class 1 site, it is imperative that the site demonstrates an exceptional historical significance of one of these criteria. In the case of the Fallows residence, the report lays out the research behind the owners, the local designer of the home, And the home has a very strong, elegant design presence that exemplifies the changes occurring during this period. One of the challenges that we are faced with in evaluating this property is that our current context statements only extend to the end of the 1960s. We do not capture the specific design movement that starts to take shape during this period and becomes more prominent during the 1970s. And in addition, there are some cultural shifts in Palm Springs that play a role that have not been captured yet. With that said, the report tries to address those changes and the shifts in the period as it relates to this resource. Staff finds that the restored resource appears to meet criterion 3, but acknowledges that limitations exist because we are unable to fully assess if this resource meets this criteria at a level of exceptional significance because our context statements fall short of documenting this period. Integrity also plays an important factor when assessing the historic status of a potential resource. The home was carefully restored to its original design intent using original drawings and interviews with the original architect of the home. Nearly all aspects of the integrity appear to be intact. And then, of course, as listed in the report as well, here's a list of the character defining features identified for the site. This includes the site design, the circular driveway, the size and scale of the openings, of fenestration on the home, the scale and hierarchy of the overhangs and the fascia detail. While the interior features are outside of the purview of HSPB, the interior features that were called out in the original design have also been listed to capture the design elements that had meaning and intent. There were 2 additions that were added to the home in the late 80s and 90s. Both additions were observed on the site. They are respectfully tucked under the main feature of the home and use a slightly different form to distinguish itself from the original design. And in locations, and both of those additions are in locations that are secondary elevations to the original design of the home. So the analysis of this request was based on the report, the site visits, and unlike other requests for designation, the historical significance of the home here is dependent upon its ability to reflect a period in Palm Springs history that is considered a very recent past. Staff determined that the integrity of design and its association to the 1970s period is justified and meets criteria 3 of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, but does recommend Class 2 status of historic merit until a more comprehensive context study can be confirmed. Staff would like to quickly note that pushing into the next era of historic preservation is a necessary step, as we have many resources and significant cultural events and identities that help define Palm Springs beyond the 1960s that have not yet been addressed. This has been a topic that has been raised by this very board in recent discussions, and we are trying to assess the resources and timing for that future update. With that, I'll conclude this staff report. We can take any questions. And of course, the applicant representative as well as the owners are present for any additional questions.
Do we have any questions for staff?
If one, Sarah, you're recommending a Class 2, and is that just because of the timing of when the house was built versus a Class 1?
Correct. We do have, in a typical review format, we would have a very robust context statement that puts the resource in context, and that piece is not completely, it's not completed, and so it does make it a little bit difficult for us to fully assess. But we do find that it does meet the criterion 3 based on the period and the integrity.
Okay. Thank you.
So at any future time, it could be revised to 1 if we revise our context. Is that true?
I would believe so. So again, there are, yes.
Okay.
If our
So it's
context
not
statements are
at that
upgraded.
end. It could evolve as we evolve.
So that there
Okay.
would be that opportunity.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, I know the applicants are here today. Would you like to provide any comments regarding the application?
Can I come up?
Yes, come and sit up here, please, and state your name for the record. And do we need address? Name and address?
I think it's just if you can fully state your name.
Hi, I'm Joan Gand from 765 Via Madera. And I want to thank you for considering our home for this honor. And we really decided to apply for it for preservation purposes because in our neighborhood of Vista Las Palmas, we're seeing tear downs. And we just feel like, you know, people are not keeping the eye on the ball to save the integrity of our neighborhood. So we felt that it would be important to get this designated, also to sort of put a flag in the 1970s and say, you know, we've got great architecture from the 70s that we want to see preserved. There've been a few great houses already to receive designation, and that's fantastic. And we would also like to be one of them. And I know you were all there and we talked, and I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but again, I really appreciate it. I think it's a special house. One reason is because the architect who designed it, who's here tonight, is still alive and designed it when he was 17 years old. And that's impressive. And as he says, the Palm Springs School of Architecture is what informed him and taught him, and that's how he started. And so I feel like this is the very tip end of the Palm Springs School of Architecture. It's very simple and pure. And we were lucky that we could see through all of the fuzz in front of it to see what was really there. So again, thanks for considering us. And
Oh, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
See if anybody
Okay,
has any
question.
questions for you.
okay.
I actually have a question. You said that there are a couple of other 70s houses designated already, or did I hear you?
Yeah, there are.
Uh-huh.
There are. I don't know the addresses, but Will Grimm's house was recently approved. And it's the Garber residence, right? It's of the same year as ours. And as well as the Walling house in South Palm Springs, Danny's house, I'm trying to remember.
Shea residence.
Okay, Shea residence. Now, that's the two I know about. Of course, Captor Plaza, 70s. I'm sure there's more. You know, I could do more research to see, but I'm sure you guys have it. So at least we're not the very first one.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. We may have some later, but,
Not
So-
going.
okay. So now I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in the public comment period? I know we have, do you have a speaker card?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Thomas Jakeway.
Okay.
Chair Hanson, the applicant did bring a letter
Oh, okay.
from an architect, so if it's all right, I might read it into the record. It was not to us in time to distribute it to you all,
Okay.
y'all's packets, but
Shall we take the people in the room first?
sure, we can do that.
Come on up. And state your name and affiliation.
My name is Tom
Oh, you have
Jakeway,
3 minutes, sorry.
and I designed this house. And I'm probably one of few people that you see who designed a house 50 years ago. Most places like that, you're dealing with their children. But I have to say that as a 17-year-old, it was a unique experience growing up in Palm Springs. It's like being in an architectural lab. Every place you went, at least if you had your eyes open, you were learning things. I remember going to the Idris house and thinking, they've got a roof going this way and a ceiling going that way and another ceiling going this way. And my dad said, that's what architects do. So in the future, I don't really see a plaque on this house with my name on it. It should say, designed by a student of the Palm Springs School of Architecture. Because I just learned from being here, but also from living here. You understand the environment and things. So it's a unique design style, construction style. I think one of the elements of that period that nobody talks about and of mid-century modern is economies. Things were built on tight budgets. People didn't have crazy money to spend like they do now. People weren't putting ornamentation on homes, nice thin roofs that were efficient, construction systems that were efficient were significant for these sorts of projects. But also the owners. Today, if that lot was empty, somebody would build a 6,000 square foot house there. In this period, they would build a house that was 2,500 to 3,000 square feet. And voila, as an architect, I had all this extra land to work with. We could do a huge motor court in the front yard because we didn't have to have 6,000 feet worth of space. That is a unique part, I think, of the Palm Springs School. The designers were able to have some freedom because of the scale of the projects not being so overwhelming, but also because of the character of the projects not being fussy. And I think this house is a prime example. And one final thing, I hadn't even thought of this, but to play on one of the items that Joan just mentioned, 3 blocks away from this house is another house that I designed for this same client. And it was a beautiful home. And I rode by it yesterday and it's no longer there. Just a couple of walls and an empty lot. So people are tearing down these houses. So I'm really hoping that we can save them and not let this neighborhood, especially of Palm Springs, become a McMansion neighborhood like you see in so many other cities. Anything else I can say or answer for you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Since you have the speaker slips, I'll let us know who's next.
Sure. Next up, we have Jay Nelson.
Hi again. So just wanted to say
State your name.
congratulations to Susan for very nicely written historic resources report.
State your name.
Oh, my name again is Jade Nelson. Thank you. So congrats to Susan on the HRR, very nicely written. And also to the GAN. I've known both Susan and the GAN and Tom for the better part of 20 years. Been in the house many times and they've done a lovely job with taking it into the next chapter. So I support the Class 2 nomination and thank you.
Thank you.
Right, next up, we have Susan Jensen.
Good evening. Susan Sequoia Jensen, and I wrote the report, so I won't be redundant with what's been said in there so far. But I would like to mention that I have known the Gans for quite some time, and they are wonderful stewards of their properties. They have a reputation in the community in Chicago of their work. I've been down to their home in La Jolla. It's absolutely outstanding example of modernism. They take these homes and they breathe new life into them. Even while they were living in Orange in an Eichler home for a year, it was beautiful. And so they are incredible stewards of properties, and I have to work on their behalf in order to preserve a property like this. And I have one little challenge as far as the staff report. I do believe that criterion 4 is met. It does represent a distinctive characteristic of the period of the 1970s. And the 70s are now really starting to come to life as far as true architecture. And whether you like the style or not, you think of Robert Venturi, Denise Scott Brown, some of the people that were making a difference going from the modernism of the mid-century into the 1970s. And I think it's something that we do need to consider as we evolve and as preservation evolves. So with that, I'll turn it over to any questions after we've all said something. So thank you.
And then next, William Grimm.
Hi, I'm Dr. William Grimm, and I was before the committee which designated our home, which is the Garber residence from 1970 on South Ridge. I agree with Susan. I've known the Gans for a long time, and we share the love of La Jolla, and we both have mid-century homes there that we painstakingly renovated as well. This home representing the 70s, I think, is significant. We bought our home specifically because of that. We loved the fact that all of a sudden there was a shift with the design of homes, combining some mid-century elements, which were near and dear to our heart, and with more in our case, Spanish, with Rick Harrison's design. But I can't speak more highly of the Gans, both as people and preservationists. And I love their vision of buying this house for the same reason we bought our house, is that I believe that we're seeing more and more of these homes torn down more than the 60s and 50s homes in Palm Springs, like Mr. Jackway said. So I'm just here to support them as a preservationist and in Palm Springs, and I really can't speak more highly of what their vision is for this property, and I think it's going to be pretty spectacular. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the speaker cards we've received, and I don't see any hands raised. I do still have the letter to the
Okay,
applicant.
so let's go ahead and read the letter.
Sure. Letter is from Shauna McManus, an architect. To whom it may concern, I am writing to you to express my support for the application of the Fallows residence for consideration as a Class 1 historic resource. This house tells a wonderful story about the patronage of a young architect who first became interested in architecture as a high school student here in Palm Springs. It is the tale of unique patronage by a frugal but far-seeing client, an optometrist, and the community that brought this house to life. This commission typifies the countless opportunities that Palm Springs presented to designers and builders throughout the mid-century and that make the city so unique. It's a very sophisticated house for such a young man. The house is a series of interlocking volumes expressed cleanly using thick horizontal planes typical of 70s architecture. The heavier massing and materials evolved from the typical mid-century modernism in the surrounding Vista Las Palmas neighborhood. Bold and wonderful landscape strategies enhance the clean and powerful architecture throughout the site. The front courtyard has an extensive collection of mature trees that frame and formally complement the entry facade. The rear and side gardens are full of unique and sculptural desert plants that powerfully integrate the garden with the large public spaces of the house through full-height glass walls. The seamless continuity of high-ceilinged, geometrically pure interior spaces and large sculptural cacti of the garden to soaring mountain views is a classic feature of Palm Springs' late mid-century modernism. The scale and drama is remarkable. I hope that you deem it worthy of Class 1 designation. Respectfully submitted, Shauna McManus.
Thank you. So if there are no further speakers, as far as we know, I will close the public hearing. Now the action is with the board. We have a property owner application for a Class 1 and a staff recommendation for a Class 2 for the reasons stated in the presentation. So,
I just have a question for staff.
okay, go ahead.
Wouldn't any 1970s property that's been proposed for demolition come before us as a Class 4?
If it's proposed for full demolition, yes. If it's a class
So the
4
ones that
site.
were cited, did those occur before I was on the board, or how is it that those, the ones that there was one that was mentioned that was nearby that is a vacant lot or something by,
That was
was it
slated.
Jakeway,
for
was
full-
that one of yours too?
Yes.
So I would
Not
have to
expecting
look
to
back.
memorize it, but it just
Yeah, no,
seems.
I would have to look back, but yes, I mean, the ordinance that's in place now, the ordinance updated, I think, in 2019. So if it was done before that, it may have been
Okay,
done under.
so
a
that might be
separate
the issue
ordinance.
here.
Mhm.
Because does it just go up to the 1978 cutoff or?
Yeah, so the class fours is anything built prior to 1978. If it's being proposed as a full demo, it would come before the board.
Okay, so at least we would have some review and it wouldn't be just tear down and wow, that's what a sad thing.
Right, for a full demo, it would have come before you now.
Yes. Board Member Hare?
I have a couple of issues that I'm confused about. And they have to do with the criterion that are that have to be met in terms of making a designation. Staff has found that criterion 3 is met, which I don't have any objection to. However, going to criterion 4, the staff says criterion 4 says the resource embodies the distinctive characteristics of a type, comma, period, or method of construction. And it would seem to me that staff has determined that this isn't met because it's constructed with conventional methods and materials. Susan, in her report, notes that characteristics can be expressed in terms such as form, proportion, structure, plan, style, or materials. And I would tend to agree with that particular definition. So I'm saying I think this does meet criterion 4. Then going to criterion 2, kind of working backwards here. Criterion 2 says the resources associated with the lives of persons who have made a meaningful contribution to national, state, or local history. And in many of our deliberations, a lot of that has centered around celebrity or maybe very notable architects, et cetera, et cetera. But local history is very important. And again, in Susan's report, Dr. Lawrence Cohn, who lived there for 46 years, seems to have made a very important contribution. Just a few excerpts from the lengthy biography here. But he was board certified in internal medicine with subspecialties in oncology, immunology, and infectious diseases. An esteemed researcher and clinical diagnostician, Lawrence Cohn's research in the etiology of disease was extensive and far-reaching, including diseases from asthma, hepatitis, endocarditis, and multiple sclerosis, pneumonia, and sepsis to prostate cancer, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, breast cancer, lung cancer. Dr. Cohn published hundreds of clinical abstracts, research papers, and medical texts. It also goes on to say that he served as president of Eisenhower Medical Center from 1986 to 88 and was considered a genius and the epitome of perseverance, a fierce advocate, etc., including patients who had AIDS and the onset of other exotic diseases. I'm almost done here. A physician, passion, ignited intensity, and Dr. Cohn was known for his energetic intervention, staunch advocacy, etc. He also was devoted to education, was a strong proponent of establishing an academic affiliation for Eisenhower Medical Center. Somehow that seems to me to rise to the level of being very important as a local resource for history, and I would argue that it meets criterion 2 as well. And as far as the 1969 context statement, if we wait for
the city to work through revising that. I won't be around, at least on this board. So my feeling is that this really does rise to the level of class one, and I don't see any reason why we should punt to a class two designation.
Thank you. All excellent points. Can you remind me the years that the doctor lived in the house?
Could someone,
46 years.
46, yeah,
What was the range though?
We did buy it from his widow. I mean, from her family, because she had just passed away.
But if we did decide it meets criterion two, we would do it. His association,
Yeah.
We moved in at 76.
76, he moved in.
okay, till
2001.
he died.
Yes,
in
20.
Well,
We don't,
2021.
when did he pass away?
He passed away before she did, so I don't have that.
It was. So it's well into
Yeah.
the issues that you had discussed in terms of his contributions in the 80s. And
yes.
okay.
And Steve Chase was one of his patients. in Irish College. Steve was involved in some of the later work on the house, not that that pertains to this, but so.
Interesting point of note.
I would say that I think there are other issues or other attributes that this, in terms of what surrounds the character of this house. And those, I think, do fall into we need a better context statement in order to utilize those. But up to this point, I think there's plenty there.
Any other-
Yes, it's on page 42.
Oh, I'm sorry.
1975 until 2021.
Okay. Thank you. Any other board members have comments? I have a bunch. So if you're ready for me, yeah?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I actually agree with you that I think this merits a class one designation. And I'm gonna go through my lengthy discussion. So sorry about that, but that's how I roll. I wanted to just read as you did, from Susan's report in the executive summary. I think the second paragraph makes this really great point. The 1970s are being realized as a significant period of late modernism. As with any decade, there's no hard stop and start and stop when it comes to design evolution. There were divergent directions, movements in schools and American architecture in the 70s. The architecture of this decade was laden with divergent reactions to modernism. The decade was one of exploration, experimentation, and thinking, which would shape the directions of architecture through the remainder of the 20th century. And this, most importantly, we face the new task of trying to comprehend and contextualize these building sites and landscapes to steward them into the future. So I think that kind of sets the tone for some of my comments to follow, although that relates more specifically to architecture. And one of the things I wanted to mention was the cutoff date of the citywide survey and the context to 1969. I have decades of experience doing surveys and managing the entire survey of the city of Los Angeles. And when you do a survey, you have to have an end date to when the survey is going to, because the surveyors have to know when do we stop. But to be perfectly honest, it's kind of arbitrary. So when you're designing contexts that don't necessarily fit into that end date, they become somewhat arbitrary. And most specifically, I'm thinking of mid-century modernism to necessarily cut that off in 1969, which the architecture context within the city's own historic context statement doesn't actually mention an end date. But in Los Angeles, for example, mid-century modern goes from 1955 all the way to 75. So to me, the 69 cutoff date is arbitrary. I almost think that this property exhibits also a lot of the characteristics of the mid-century modern, moving into late modern. And I know for purpose of this nomination, we would go to late modern because of the cutoff of the 1969 date to mid-century modernism. But also the fact that even though the survey date and most of the contexts end in 69, the city has a context statement for architecture that does not end in 1969. In fact, our own context statement for late modernism puts it into the 1970s. So now we have in our own citywide context statement, a context that talks about late modern into the 1970s. So, I mean, no nomination is perfect. I also serve on the State Historical Resources Commission, and one of our commissioners who spent a long time on the commission, serving many terms, that we need to realize that in this report and the evaluation of this property, some of the problems really relate to the context statement and this 1969 date, and not to the quality of the report and the case it makes for significance of the property. And I mean, it makes the case, and I think that's my point here, is I think the report does make the case for a Class 1 nomination. I also think that the complexity of the report is really important because we're not just looking at modern architecture, we're looking at all of these other, let me just get my pages out that I copied. We're looking at the importance of the property owner that you just talked about. We're looking at the beginnings of the gay community and design community in Palm Springs. We're also looking at that whole Palm Springs High School house construction technology class and the importance of those classes to contributions to Palm Springs architecture generally, which I think is really important. And we're talking 72 at that time, but I'm assuming maybe that program started maybe even in the 60s. I don't know that much about the history of it, but so I think that this represents several important aspects of the context statement, and it doesn't bother me that the context statement ends in 69, especially since we have an architecture context that goes clearly acknowledges into the 1970s. And I do agree 100% that we need a context on the 1970s and bringing not just 70s architecture, but all of these other elements into it. You know, the nascent LGBT community, we talked about doing a context statement. That would be a great place to start with that in the 1970s. So for me, this nomination really is an important opportunity to designate something from 1972 as a Class 1 historic resource and begin acknowledging the 1970s and encourage the city to pursue an associated survey and historic context statement. But I think I see this as a real opportunity to get us to that point. It's my story. I don't know if anybody has.
Well, as you all probably know, I've been pushing very hard for a 1970s historic resources survey for the city for all the reasons that everyone has already said. And for instance, these architects, Tom Jakeway, Stan Sackley, John Walling, they all have to be researched and their importance and influence needs to be established so that when we're making the arguments, we can just cite these things instead of having to create it out of thin air every time. And we do have a great example of a 1975 property, the Shea Residence in Andreas Hills by John Walling, which I think is one of the best examples of that era. And at least that was designated somehow before I got on board. So it must have gone through the process anyway, and it was designated Class 1. Yeah, so this is an odd thing I'm going to bring up. I'm going to bring it up anyway. The front entrance. It's the most prominent thing you see in the house and with the yellow doors. And the conjecture, since it's not clear if there were ribs on the front door, it just bugs me that that wasn't brought out as something that isn't necessarily original because it's a big deal. When you look at the house, you see 2 yellow double doors with these amazing ribs on them. I think it should have been brought out. I don't know if it disqualifies it from the sense of being a character defining feature, clearly a double door entrance is important and it's in a key feature of the house. It's painted yellow. I mean, if it was painted white, it might not be as distinctive. But since there isn't that much to call out in the front of the house, the main facade, that's big. I mean, the front entrance is major. So I don't know how to handle that. I don't think it's going to affect my decision, but I think it needs to be called out. If it's not clear, I mean, is it, there wasn't evidence that that was the original type, the facade?
Not evidence.
And I have no recollection.
This is an outrage. How can you not remember that? 17.
The door, the design is original.
Right, the double
Yes.
door.
Right, but as far as kind of the board and batten type.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was no specification.
It's just so prominent. That's the thing.
I think maybe the point is that you just said the configuration, the height, the double door.
Right.
To me, that material doesn't matter that much.
But I think it should be called
But I
out.
think it should, I agree, maybe in character defining features, we could say, you know, the height and double door. However, the existing door is not original.
Or it's
Something,
conjectural, the ribs or something.
well, I don't know if it's even conjectural, I don't know, I think that's what they liked, and it looks good, I mean, I don't know.
Well,
But there are plans, they have the plans.
yeah, we have, but the issue, when we were restoring it is because there was no specification on there. And these doors are no longer made. We had to make a,
Well, you had to make a choice. That's not
we
the
had to make a
point.
choice,
But that isn't the
like your
point.
wall right there, it's pretty
Are
much
you just
that.
saying it should be clear that they're not original?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
okay, that's easy.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Because it's so prominent. I mean, if it was just the side door, you know, how do you see it? Who cares? But it's like the number one thing you see when you look at it, yellow doors with the ribs. Anyway, personal pet peeve, but that's not going to affect
No, I think it's a
the
good
ultimate
point.
decision.
It's a good point, because it was not called out in
Yeah,
the
and it's
contributing
pretty
and not
prominent. Okay.
contributing.
That's my statement.
Anyone else?
I just wanted to say that when I read this, I was kind of surprised that a class 2 suggestion. I was expecting a class 1, and frankly, listening to the other discussion makes me agree that that 1 year, 2 years difference doesn't really matter to me. I guess I would say that I would support a class 1 for this as well.
So one question I have, if we did, I don't know how you all feel about including criterion 2 for the property owner. I agree, to me, certainly at the local level of significance, there's a lot of information there. Generally, you would adjust the period of significance to account for the property owner, although 2021 is pretty late. So I'm not sure how we would deal with that in terms of the property owner.
Is that actually how it's done? The entire time the person lived there and that's the period of significance?
Well, it needs to be the time, this is applying National Register criteria, which most local governments do, but it would have to be the time of his productive period. So let's say he moved into it when he was 80 and he retired, although he had done many important things. This clearly seems like he was doing a lot of work, you know, in the 70s and 80s. So I don't know if there would be a way of determining, you know.
Date of retirement?
Date of retirement, something along those lines.
Susan has that information at her fingertips.
Well, I struggled with this. I
Date of
did.
retirement?
No,
Oh.
with criterion 2 for the importance and significance of his work. But because when we first started this process, we were told it's a long shot because of the time frame. So I kept it with the Fallows who lived here and who commissioned the property. So I did not consider that because of the period of significance. And I too have written a lot of the national registry nominations, and I try to follow suit with that. This one was a struggle.
It's a little different, but you could have a period of significance that begins in 72 and goes to whatever the end date would be. And then under those contexts, you would have 2 separate periods of significance.
If I may, from having grown up in Palm Springs, Dr.
Cone.
Second one.
Dr. Cone was the only man who would see people with AIDS.
I've actually met people who tell me that he saved their lives.
So many people here in this community owe their lives to Larry Cone, including Steve Chase. Steve was a strong client of Larry's. Larry experimented with Steve. Larry worked on things that nobody knew about.
So,
His name should be on this plaque.
just wondering how to,
I did a quick calculation and he would have been about 47 when he moved into the house.
so certainly during his productive,
Yeah.
he might have done some other activities,
40
obviously.
47
before that,
and
but
into
for a
his-
doctor, that's
Into
young.
his late 80s, 40 years.
Just for some context, I moved here in 1991 and quickly realized we were in the middle, I knew we were in the middle of the AIDS epidemic. I'm a gay man. I moved to Palm Springs as an internist. I worked a lot with Dr. Cone. He was, as you said, one of the few people that would take in HIV and AIDS patients, most of which were dying at the time. I just want to tell you, he was at the height of his career when I moved here. And I
when
can
was
tell
that?
you that,
When was that?
91, end of 91. And he was very significant. His wife was on the board of Desert AIDS Project at the time. I was medical director at Desert AIDS Project from 92 to 94. She was on the board during that time. Steve Chase died during that period of time, and he was one of the founders of the AIDS Project. So Larry and his wife were very involved in the AIDS world here in Palm Springs. So I just wanted to give some context.
When we bought the house, we inherited lots of Dr. Cone's work, notebooks of articles that he had written, which we still have, on all these, frankly taboo subjects at the time. And we talked to, as Joan said, lots of folks that knew him and are still alive because of him.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. Sounds like there's a really great story to tell there. A lot more.
Well, it does, and it just struck me in reading Susan's excellent report. I wanted to call you up and say, what's going on here? Why haven't you acknowledged this in a class one, or,
You were discouraged from even submitting.
I understand. And I get the whole picture there, but it's definitely, it was very inspiring.
Thank you.
Well,
Well, I was gonna say, I think there's, even if we don't have an exact end date, I think there's enough information.
oh, so do I.
Yeah.
I was just saying it to try and maybe establish. I mean, the city's ordinance doesn't have any age rule at all, right?
We don't, yeah.
Right.
I don't know, would you like me to summarize?
I have a quick question. We seem to be talking around class one. The city staff's recommendation was a class two. Is this as simple as us making a motion to apply a class one? If that is approved, it's a class one.
Well, it's not a class one, it goes to city council.
Yeah, okay, yes, but
Yes.
we have the authority to, from our side, or at least that step in the process, to approve a class one.
Yes.
It's our job. I mean,
Yeah.
and this is a very good question. Staff recommendation is just that, but it's based on obviously a lot of research and thoughts that went into it, and the case is made. But, then we evaluate it, and if we disagree, then we disagree.
And I say that in no way diminishing the effort
Right.
of the staff, but it sounds like we are pretty much all in agreement. that this house deserves a class 1 for a variety of reasons.
When we vote, we'll know for sure,
Yeah,
but that
exactly.
would be, the motion would be
Yeah.
to recommend it as a class 1, and then potentially with some other criteria added and a revised period of significance to encompass criterion 2.
The original application and report was for a class 1 application, so it's already presented that way to us. It's not like we're arbitrarily upping
think-
it, it was brought to us that way.
Well, Sarah may want to address that because we don't get nominations for class 2. They come in as class 1.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
That's correct. We don't have a separate process for class 2 nominations, and so we would evaluate application, request for a historic site, class 1 application, and then apply the criteria. So yes, that's correct, and I think to your point about disagreement with staff, obviously it's a recommendation, and the point is to have the full discussion about the contents and include the public comments that come in. So it's a building process for this, and then the final recommendation from the board is the resolution that goes before the city council.
So are we ready for a motion?
I'm clear. I can make the motion if you would like me to. Can the chair make a motion? Yep.
If you don't want to, I'm happy
Oh.
to.
My only question is,
Findings. So,
go ahead.
before you make the motion, we have a draft resolution in our packet. It does appear that we need to update the criteria and the findings in order to recommend a class 1. And so I would need some direction on that to make sure that that is updated, and so that can be forwarded over to city council. So in terms of criteria 2, and then if you wanted to address criteria 4, I mean, those aspects will need to clarify before we finalize that motion, so we make the findings.
Well, under criterion 2, I would make the findings that the property meets the criteria to be significant under criterion 2. Based on, because we have to base this upon the information we have, the information provided in the report about the doctor. I think there's more information to tell.
And public testimony.
And public testimony. Well, I don't know if we can do that. Can we do that?
We don't typically add in the public
Yeah.
testimony to this piece. It's just based on the.
I mean, I think probably what would happen at some point is there will be a context related to the gay community and AIDS, and he will certainly be a prominent person in that. But for now, even what's in the report is certainly enough to substantiate his contribution as a medical doctor. So I would make the finding for criterion 2.
And criterion 4,
And
which
I
is something
also,
I know.
I was gonna do that. I also do believe, and later on in the meeting, I'm gonna bring up criterion 4. But I also believe that the report made an excellent case for criterion 4. And I know it's a little bit different than what we usually do, but I would like to see this, it will segue into my later comments. So yes, I would say criterion 2, 3, and 4. So I would make the finding that it meets criterion 4 as well. Again, as presented in the report. And the only question I would have is, again, what would we do for an end date for the period of significance under criterion 2?
That is a great question.
Is it possible to, I don't even know if this is what we would normally do, to try and get a little bit more information, to write a revised resolution and include that?
Yeah,
Susan may have some of that information that would help inform an end date.
trying to look in the resolution. We don't necessarily state the period of significance in
Oh,
the
okay.
actual resolution.
Good.
So it might just be a clarifying note for this property, and then before it goes to city council, we can clarify that
Okay,
so that we can have that time to add in that information.
okay, that sounds like a good plan.
And then just on that note, in terms of the naming of the residence as well, right now it's taking on the first resident of the home, which is a typical naming convention.
Yeah.
Unless it's spanning multiple ownership, which we've done in the past where we would either hyphenate and include. And so I guess if we are updating criterion 2 to include a figure of significance, usually their name does appear on the residence nomination. So I don't know if you want to
I
discuss
think
that.
that's an excellent suggestion.
The property owner, okay with that?
Yes, absolutely.
With a hyphen.
With a hyphen, typically.
So it becomes the Fellows Cone House.
Yeah, very happy with that.
Excellent.
In regards, I did have a quick comment about criterion 4, if you don't mind me interjecting on that one. This has come up in the past where the interpretation that Palm Springs has for criterion 4 is different than the state level of review. And so we've run into this discrepancy with multiple projects. The way that Palm Springs interprets criterion 4 is that it is specifically addressing construction method and technologies and distinctive characteristics. And that's why in the staff report, it did not meet the finding because it didn't address a specific construction method for that period and time and type. And so I know we've had this discussion before. I think that was the intent and interpretation of criterion 4. So that is, with that premise, I don't know if you still feel that that criterion is met. And typically what happens with the information related to the period and the style, it gets folded into criterion 3. And that is how we have done these reviews in the past.
She's right about that. That's actually the way we interpret it.
It is, but
We don't have to agree, but that's what we do.
Well, I wonder if maybe this isn't a time to make a new distinction.
yeah, and I that's why I said I'm bringing up something under our comments later as a future agenda item related to this. Maybe we go with 2 and 3 for now and bring this up as something that should be dealt with by the board.
That makes sense, actually. That's I agree with
Okay.
you.
Seems reasonable.
Okay.
I'll concede.
So you've made the motion.
No, I did not.
Oh.
I just made some findings for staff. So the motion is for the board to recommend that city council designate the Fallows home residence located at 765 Via Verde as a Class 1 historic resource, adding criterion 2 for its association with Dr.
I'll second.
Sorry, that's me. Okay, a motion by Board Member Hanson and seconded by Panessa. Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Hanson, second by Board Member Panessa. Do we have any further discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the final vote is what, 5-0,
Congratulations.
unanimous.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This was a great discussion to be part of. You know, I'm really glad we were able to be here.
Me too.
And I do have a question. Will I have an opportunity to revise revise the report prior to city council's review?
I think that would be, well, I'll double check. I think that there shouldn't be an issue with that, but, and we can just indicate that it's a revised report.
And show where the revisions occur.
Sure, yeah, we can go ahead
Based
and
on
do that.
tonight's
And then we can
discussion.
also add in the period of significance update as part of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Go 70s.
Yes.
My glasses. Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is unfinished business, and we have none. Under, might wait a second, because you might not be able to hear me.
We have to come to a meeting to see.
A technical thing, even though this is recording us, it's hard to hear each other sometimes. The microphone was kind of nice, but anyway, since you're so far away, you know.
Yeah, I think it also the layout has changed, so we're kind of spread apart as well.
Right.
So that might be
Oh, well, there's nothing to do about it, I guess, but anyway.
Okay, under new business, we have item 4A, a request by Kevin Coop, requesting approval for demolition of the Class 4 site at 450 North Aaliyah Road, case number H demo 2025-0010. Staff report, please.
This is the first item under new business, and it is a request for demolition of the existing structures on 450 North Kalia Road. So this Class 4 site is on a parcel that's approximately half an acre in size. The county records do indicate that the construction date for this property is 1935. The home consists of a sprawling plan with a detached garage that was added later. And of course, this detached garage is facing an access point on Alejo Road. The general plan for this area is considered estate residential. In this aerial view, we're able to see that the home has a mix of flat and sloped roof styles with varying heights. And a lot of that, as we saw on site, there are portions of that have as seen in these photos, and of course, as we observed during our site visit, the home was under major construction until a stop order was issued. As a Class 4 site, any request for full demolition requires the review of HSPB before a permit may be issued pursuant to section 8.05.0 in the municipal code. Many areas, again, we did identify, did go through some demolition, including the swimming pool. The exposed framing and walls show the ghosting of where the walls and the building masses were located. I guess one benefit of having some of those walls removed is that we were able to see some of the foundations that did reveal where areas appeared to be additions as opposed to the original footprint. The remaining fenestration that we did see, it looked like there was a range of different styles of windows and doors. And there appeared to be a new entry feature that was constructed facing Alejo Road that was added at a later time. The building permit records for this property revealed to be pretty limited in terms of providing us clear information on the progress of change on this site. So the proceedings for designation of a property is something that we would review as a request for reviewing demolition. Of course, one or more of the following criteria need to be met, showing exceptional significance. While the home is associated with Palm Springs from the mid-1930s, in fact, before the city was even incorporated, the information that we have in this application, as well as the site visits, do not reveal a strong association with this area any longer due to the multitude of changes that we were able to still observe. When it comes to the integrity, again, the start of the demolition work has compromised a complete review of the site. However, the remaining elements of the home, again, included the framing that was revealed, and it showed changes and alterations that have been made over the lifetime of the property. This includes, again, changes to fenestration, additions, and unsympathetic mechanical upgrades. So the HSPB's action for a request such as this is to determine if the home appears to meet any of the criteria for historic significance and if it possesses the right amount of integrity to justify its historic significance. And at that point, HSPP is able to stay the property and proceed with the designation proceedings. Or they have the choice to make the determination that it lacks the significance and integrity for reclassification and allow the project to continue. Based on the permit history, the physical evidence observed, staff finds that the site does not meet any of the criteria for designation and recommends that HSPP take no action. The owner of this property would need to follow through with the required permitting process outlined as part of their proposed scope of work. I can take any questions. To the staff report.
I have a question. So if the board votes to approve the demolition, then, but the lot itself is still a class 4.
It would
Is that-
no longer be a class 4 because it's a class 4 due to the construction date of a building. So
Okay.
if the building were to be completely demolished, then it would no longer retain a class 4 status. moving
Would it
forward.
have no designation at that
It would
point?
have no designation.
Okay, so then that means that whatever the owners decided to build there, it would have to go through the architectural review board, but we would have no input on that.
We would have no input in this case unless they're asking for some sort of special variance for their project. It would go through the typical process for constructing a single family home, which doesn't typically require an architectural review committee review. So they would just go through the ministerial process for building permits.
Is there a recommendation that you would have that, how do I put this nicely? Would kind of have us retain some ability to not have a monstrosity built on that one?
We don't. We wouldn't have the ability to condition it. Basically, the choices are for HSPB. We're actually not even discussing design at this point. What we're discussing is if it needs to be designated to save what's there and preserve it, or to say that, we're letting this go and it goes through the normal, processes with the city. And so it'd be to take no action and have that project move along.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No further discussion? May I have a motion?
Sure, there is a.
Oh.
Chair Hanson. I'm sorry to interrupt, this is maybe slightly out of sequence. There is a raised hand
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
in
I
the
should have asked.
online, so.
Go ahead.
Kevin Coop. Kevin, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thanks for letting me address the committee here. I'm the owner of the property, and I also own the property adjacent to it, the 501 Bellardo, the old Liberace property. So I understand the concern about the monstrosity. The intent was to put this back together with that property with appropriate architectural guidelines through the city in a much more the property's been derelict it's taken me over 10 years to buy it because it's been a dilapidated homeless encampment that was it was a mess. So the intent here is to do something tasteful and appropriate with the period of the 1930s that would actually complement the 501 Bellardo property next door.
Very nice, thank you.
That makes me feel way
Yeah,
better.
much better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Ken Bettiseller there, it wasn't really trying to demo it. It was really trying to clean up what was in effect a homeless encampment and it was a hazard. And then as they were tearing some of the portions off that were collapsing, it sort of took a life of its own. But it was really meant to try to be a safety feature. As you can see, if we were attempting to demo it, we wouldn't have. We were trying to see what was there anyway, so there was no intent of tearing it down. I wanted to save what I could. It just unfortunately, I don't think there's any historical significance to that property at all. the structure.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else online who would like to speak?
No other raised hands.
Anyone in the audience? I'm assuming, okay. So did Board Member Hare, did you make a motion?
No, I was
Oh, I'm
interrupted.
sorry. Go ahead.
I move to take no action pursuant to the demolition request for a Class 4 site located at 450 North Kauai Road and associated reviews for potential redesignation of the Class 4 site to a Class 1 for the historic resource.
And I'd like to second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Board Member Hare and a second by Board Member Marusi. And no further discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Okay, next under new business, we have item 4B, a request for major alterations to a Class 4 site at 1090 West Cielo Drive, case number H demo 2025-0011. Staff report, please.
So last item before the board tonight, this is a Class 4 site pursuing major alteration. And at the discretion of the HPO, this major alteration request has been brought before the HSPB for review pursuant to section 8.05.130. The site is located at the terminus of West Cielo Drive. When you first approach the parcel, you'll all notice a significant buildup in grade with the stone terracing. After you approach the building by climbing up the stairs to the flat terrace containing the swimming pool, the one-story home and the front entrance can be seen. The single-family home was constructed according to the permit information in 1962 for the first owners, the Libet family. Later, the home was occupied and owned by actress Magda Gabor till her death in 1997. Based on the research and information provided, the home was likely built in a mid-century modern style that was later updated with Regency revival features. Again, when looking at criteria for designation, the home does not meet any of the individual criteria. As an exceptional example, while Magda Gabor took residence in this home, it was not during her active or influential period in her career. The home does appear to have gone through a number of iterations that pushed different styles, but the original mid-century design appears to have been considerably modified. The builder associated with the home does not appear to rise to the level of significance to qualify for criterion 5. And then again, the integrity of the home in terms of design appearance appears to have been compromised over the years. And this does include features such as the fenestration and architectural detailing. The HSPB purview for a request is to determine, based on the information provided in the application and the site visit, if they wish to stay the project and pursue historic designation, or to take no action and allow the project to continue in its changes to the existing building. In order for the board to take no action and staying the project, they need to make the findings that the site meets the criteria for historic significance and that it retains sufficient historic integrity. So based on the information provided along with the observations made on the site, staff finds that the home does not meet the necessary requirements for reclassification and recommends that HSPB take no action The owners of the property are not seeking historic designation of this site and do wish to move forward with their revised scope of work. Happy to take any questions related to the staff report if there are any. And the applicant representative is here to answer any questions if you have any.
Do you have questions for staff or the applicant, anyone?
Oh, for the applicant as well.
You can ask, yeah.
I guess I just wanted it on the record. You and I had a conversation yesterday, and you said basically the renovations are within the existing footprint. There is no expansion of the home. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, there's no further discussion. May I have a motion?
I would move that we take, follow staff's recommendation to take no action. Is that your?
Is that sufficient? Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by member Payanesa. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And we have a second by board member Bachman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. All right, so we're moving on to board member and staff comments. Are there any general brief comments or other issues of concern from members of the board?
Waiting for you.
Well, I just had a couple things that I wanted to add as a future agenda items, but they don't have to be on the same agenda. But maybe not for too long out because there are people whose terms are, we don't know what happened, what'll happen. Okay, so I would like to have as a discussion item, developing design guidelines for historic districts that are not designated, but are listed in the inventory or in the citywide survey as eligible for designation. And we briefly touched on this before to help people who want to make some modifications, and there's no guidance for them in that regard. And these would again be guidelines. It would be some type of handout. And then the potential for forming a committee moving forward with that idea. So if we could agendize that. And then my second is I would like a workshop to discuss designation criteria. And specifically for me, criterion 4, which I feel does not conform with state and federal criteria. And I think as a CLG, it's kind of incumbent to follow those guidelines. So maybe if we can have, probably we'd be more of a workshop than a discussion, because I think we would need some background on why the city decided to interpret criterion 4 that way and take out the word style. And so that's probably enough for now. So if we could agendize that for a future meeting. Is anybody else? No? Okay. Does staff have any comments?
This is our last meeting for 2025. I did want to take a quick moment to thank everyone on our board for all of their hard work. It's a lot of, I mean, the community knows, but staff knows better than anyone how much work you guys pour into the site visits, the reading of the reports. Some of them are very long. And so we're very appreciative of all of your service. And kind of dovetailing off of that, we do have a holiday party coming up. So if you are able to attend, please just let me know. Or if you're not, let me know. It's on December 11th, and I'll send a follow-up email just for confirmation. But again, I just really wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you. And I think that the community certainly appreciates all of the work that you do as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Very much.
A lot for one person.
I think that is it. And just one technical thing, it was brought to my attention that our passwords for our city emails may be expiring. And so if you're having issues with that, please let me know, and I can try and help. But if you haven't reset your passwords, you might be prompted to do that. So just a little warning there. Do you have any staff comments?
Nope, covered it.
Okay, we will then adjourn. The Historic Site Preservation Board meeting will adjourn to its regularly scheduled meeting on Tuesday, January 6th, 2026 at 5:30 PM. And we will be meeting here in the large conference room at City Hall at 3200 Hawkins Canyon Way. Meeting adjourned.
Yay.
Thank you.
So you said